welcome back. Episode, I don't even know what it is.
That does not sound exciting.
That is not. It's 6:13 a.m.
6:13 a.m.
Day 2.
Can you play the rock music to get us going?
Oh, yeah. That's
What's up? Ben has way too much energy.
He started on the cappuccino at 5 o'clock.
Did you guys get coffee?
No.
No.
There's coffee
No,
in your room.
my coffee is still pumping through my veins from last night. So, got a solid 4 hours of sleep.
A 9:30 cappuccino was a...
It's a bad idea.
But Ben did iron his shirt this morning
You
at
ironed
like
your
5 o'clock.
Well, the iron doesn't work.
Wait a second.
But there is something that I didn't know it existed, called a trouser press, which also doesn't work in our room.
But you're looking fresh this morning.
I appreciate that.
I want to know, how often do you use an iron at home?
Probably once a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I've used it maybe once in a year. Yeah.
My mom taught me how to iron when I was a kid. And,
He loves it.
No, I don't love it.
It's like his hobby.
Like an old pastime.
Yeah, just something to do.
You know, I think I'll iron today.
That thought never crosses
Pretty
my
obvious
mind,
looking at your shirt that you didn't think that.
Nah.
Or your iron doesn't work either.
Yeah.
Nope. Just decided, forget it.
Yeah.
You know?
We're living in
It said-
suitcases in Greece.
Yeah. It said press the iron button to turn it on. I kept pressing the iron button and it didn't give. So
It's smoke coming
it's
from
like,
a hotel room. Oh.
it's like melted together. So yeah,
I told
there's
Ben,
no
I
ironing
said,
for
this
me.
is how we die. You set the room on fire with your pants.
What a story.
It could have happened a couple different ways.
How did that hotel
Oh,
burn
man.
down? Trouser press left on too long. So.
Gets him every time. Oh, man.
So good.
So yesterday we went to Philippi, and we are in the town of
Kavala.
and we hit it hard yesterday. Seeing the town.
We ate some good food. That's
We
what
ate
he's
some
saying.
Great food.
Yep.
So out of curiosity, what was a highlight yesterday for everybody? Best thing you saw yesterday?
Go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say Jeff's meat platter for 2.
I knew you were going to
It
go
was pretty beautiful.
He was
But,
like, "Can I get a sampler platter for one?" The guy's like, "No."
I got a picture of that we can throw into the podcast.
I do
too.
too. You had the better angle.
Straight on.
It was a lot of food.
It was for
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. I did it. Most of it.
Proud of you.
Then we found gelato.
Yep.
We found a lot of gelato.
Yeah.
But that's not a highlight. It is a
Okay.
highlight, but not the highlight.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did yesterday that, I don't know, it was just cool for me, was as we were walking through Philippi, I just put on the YouVersion app and listened to the entire book of Philippians, which is only 4 chapters, but I just listened to it as I'm walking through like the old foundations of the houses and stuff. And I just had this like image in my brain of walking along, hearing this letter, from the Apostle Paul about what it means to be a follower and pressing on, and how, the gospel is worth it no matter what, and that God is the one who supplies all of our needs, and he's the one that gives us strength. And so it was just a really cool thing to hear that letter out loud as I'm walking through that city.
For me, it was probably something pretty similar to that. I was trying to find the sign that was Paul's location of imprisonment. And so when I found that, I was kind of over there by myself. And so I just looked at YouVersion, and on my phone I looked at chapter 16 of the book of Acts. And I just went through and I read of the life change, which is really, we have 3 weekends, I think, from the book of Philippians, or the section of Philippians, from this series, and all those life changes that happened. And so I'm looking down at the agora from the kind of the edge of the hill there, and you see where the slave girl called out to Paul, these are servants of the Most High God. She's telling the crowd in the agora, which is the marketplace. These are the servants of the Most High God. They're telling you how to be saved. But we already have learned that she's demon possessed. So the demons are making that identification. That this guy is telling you he's a servant of the Most High God, which the demon knew, and telling you how to be saved. And so he cast he cast the demon out of her eventually. After a few days, it seems like, in the story. And then they drag him up the hill, and I was right where I was standing was in front of the little cave that they identified as possible, likely, prison location for him. And so I'm standing there, and I read on through the text, and he's in there, and he's not overwhelmed by his location. He's overwhelmed by his relationship with the Lord, and he's positive. He's worshiping. He's praying. And then there's an earthquake. I'm envisioning that transpire while I'm standing there. There's an earthquake, and he walks free, right? But he stays behind, and the jailer's life is transformed because the jailer becomes a Christ follower at that.
And his family.
And his family, yeah. It's just pretty cool to see both ends of that story unpack right there in front of you. That was neat.
Yeah.
So this is something you and I were talking about yesterday, but he meets her, the girl. It's a multiple day experience, right, where she just keeps following them around. And then it says, as you mentioned, he became annoyed with her. And so why did he wait that long?
Yeah, that's something I wondered about as I read the story, because it says distinctly, Luke writes, he became annoyed with her, and so he cast the demon out. And as I'm reading the story, I thought, why didn't you just do that to benefit her in the beginnings?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know, the only idea that we could really come to was that, once he does that, it's game over in Philippi, and he gets run out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And so the timing of what God wanted to do, what Paul intended to accomplish in Philippi wasn't yet fulfilled. And, of course, that leads us, application-wise to thinking about when God's timing and our timing doesn't line up, it's hard to figure out why. I mean, I try to struggle through. We're going to leave here today. We're down at Kavala, which is Neapolis, which we need to talk about that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to leave here and go over towards Thessalonica. On the way, we're going to pass through two towns that Paul passed through on the Via Ignatia, and he didn't stop. It just says he just went through. He just goes on by. Like, are there people there not worthy of the gospel as well? But it's sovereign. God's sovereign. He's got a plan in this, and there's lots of reasons why. Mission method wise, probably he goes on to Thessalonica. He only has so much time. He has, that's a crossroads, a key city, all those things. But just I don't know. Those are the things I think about when I'm in these locations. Like, what about all these people? But God, they're in God's plan too. Just timing.
I had a bunch of I thought there was a few things that kind of stuck out to me, and I want to throw Ben V under the bus. But we were on that road, and tell the people what you came to in your mind as we were standing there.
Well, first of all, I've been dealing with feet issues, so I was watching you guys just take off. I mean, Andrew took off down the hill, and these guys took up the hill. And I'm thinking, I don't want to do any of the hill.
Plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, I mean, plantar fasciitis got me, twisted up. But I didn't want to go up either way, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna walk a little bit just because I want to experience a little bit of the road. And a Jeff Walling sermon actually came to mind, but he had talked about this passage at CIY. And he talked about a word that Paul used in his writings, the word hupomeno. And hupomeno just simply means to persevere, to not give up, to keep pushing forward. And the application that he used that Jeff Walling used was that Paul was trying to tell the people to put one foot in front of the other. Because I think we decided the time of the writings that where we're experiencing now, him and Silas were probably mid-60s. But then in other places where Paul's writing from prison, he's an 84-year-old man. I mean, he's late in life. And he's telling the people he's writing to, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because the Christian life is not about an easy journey. It's oftentimes wrought with fear and difficulty and discouragement. And that's really what came to my mind yesterday as I watched Ben and Levi literally just ascend up the hill and off into the distance, and Andrew disappeared down the hill. I thought Paul did this, and I set a distance yesterday to Thessaloniki from where we were. It was probably about 140 miles. He was headed to Thessaloniki, 140 miles of walking on that road.
Which is the Via Ignatia, which if you the people should watch. We're going to put some stuff on social media about that. But that we were walking on like the road, the rocks laid out the way it was.
Yeah, when you said that, I mean, a lot of things are recreated or have been redone because they're, it's all that stuff's very old. But that road, that part of that road, that stretch, Paul would have walked on those rocks, and it's a chill bump moment. That I didn't know if I'd have chill bump moments, but that was definitely one of those. So it's just even just for me with my plantar fasciitis, I thought don't be a baby, walk a little ways, experience what Paul must have experienced, and the pain and the suffering and the dealing and the beatings and the discouragement that he experienced, and he still walked because he knew those people needed to hear the gospel, and God had called him to it. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Was that your highlight, out of curiosity? What was it?
Oh, I didn't even I had thought about that, but my highlight was what Jeff was talking about with the jail cell. Since I worked in corrections, it's always been something that has fascinated me, just that idea of being in the jail or doing corrections, and the absolute fear that guy must have been feeling when he realized the prisoners that I was told to guard closely are gone. They're gone. He knew that his life would come to an end at the hand of a Roman soldier, another Roman soldier and a sword. And so he was going to take care of it himself probably out of pride in a lot of ways, because he wasn't going to allow someone else to deal with his own mistakes. So that you got one job when you're there, and when that one job you fail at it, it would be a terrible. I only went on one run like that where we thought an inmate had escaped. It wasn't my fault, but because we're all correctional officers working in the same unit in the same shift, we all felt a responsibility to catch him and make sure he got back where he belonged. And so I can imagine this man's terror, and then having Paul say, no, we're all here, and let me tell you something. Let me tell you about a guy I know that sets us free from these kinds of things. So that was a real, if I don't get to preach that one in the series, I'll be disappointed, I think, a little bit, because I think I have a little passion for that one. So, just whoever's making the schedule.
It's already set, and I have no idea.
Shoot.
Well, Ben, what about you?
Philippi was my highlight. Kind of saying, just reading Acts 16 and just thinking about the fact that Paul probably knew every city that he went to, there had to be this inkling of, this could be the end for me. This could be the place where the gospel cost me my life. And yet every time he goes, I just think about, we only see bits and pieces of this story, but it just always seems like Paul gets the urgency of the gospel. And so everywhere he goes, that's his mission. He doesn't get distracted by other things. But a piece of the story in Philippi with the slave girl that I find interesting is just kind of the irony of the whole, that whole scenario, because people would have come from miles around and paid good money to have their fortune told by this girl with a demonic spirit. And so in some ways they trusted what that spirit had said. Otherwise they wouldn't be paying money. We know that was their owner's source of income, and so they were probably pretty wealthy from it. And so all of these people would have trusted what this girl had said. And then she says, these people are servants of the Most High God who are telling you the way to be saved. And it's just kind of, it's just like God to even use those evil things for His glory. And so, even in that little bit of the story, I find it fascinating because God still used that to declare the truth of why they were there.
So listening to you say that, I'm thinking that that's another possibility as to why Paul waited.
It could have been.
I mean, her testimony, though, from a demonic source is it's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's proclaiming, and people are listening to her. She obviously, as a fortune teller, if she was making her owner's money, she was at least somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
Right? Which which means the source was demonic.
Right.
And so maybe Paul did wait. Let's let her tell the story too. What a testimony.
Well,
Yeah.
I just thought of this, but in Philippians chapter 1, Paul says whether the gospel is preached out of false motives or true. Like they're talking about light bulb moments. As he's writing that letter, he's thinking about that girl. And he's thinking about the people that while he's in prison, they're out there saying, oh, Paul did this and Paul said this. And can you believe that? He must have been thinking about that girl in some ways, because he just let her all day long. Every time he went to a new spot, he just let her tell the story of the gospel and about what he was doing there. And that's not something I had thought of till just now. So that was pretty cool.
Good thought.
Yeah. Well, Levi, best place, best moment from yesterday.
A little bit of everything you guys have said, pretty much. Philippi,
I don't think I'm gonna let
obviously.
you get away with that answer.
Well, like here at Kavala, ancient city of Neapolis, like there's just not any ruins from
There's
Paul's day.
a stat or a monument to Paul.
It's next to the ice cream place.
Did you find it?
We went there
It's
last
that
night.
mosaic.
It was that mosaic.
Mosaic.
It was
That's
just
Well, that's pretty new.
that's from like 1995.
Well, I didn't even not realize that's what we were looking for.
Definitely not work.
Ben was
St.
looking for
Paul's.
ice cream, but
Yeah, wasn't that
I
impressive?
just happened to stumble upon it next to the gelato place, but
Yeah,
You made a
but-
commitment to go back and
man,
I
your
did.
word.
buy ice cream, and you're a man of your word.
you know, I think that's why I woke up feeling so good today. Like my integrity is intact.
the ice cream or integrity? Okay.
My gut is larger, but I still got my honor. So
That's all that matters.
that's worth something.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, like it's just different. Here it's the modern city, but at Philippi, like it's the actual ruins. And so, like when I was walking around, I was just trying to envision what it could have looked like, what everyday life would have been like. And so it helps make the stories come alive. And as you read it and think through the stories, you're there. And you're
I
like,
think the boat that Paul was on just came in.
Did it? That's the boat we were
It
trying to
said
talk
Fisher
Farley
of Men
into going. Yeah.
on the side.
Yeah.
So.
Been out for the night. Actually, I think that may be the boat Jesus said, cast your nets on the other side. Could it be? Oh, wait, that's for our other thing, our false theology we're putting out.
Yeah,
That
bad
might have
theology.
been that might have
Nobody's-
been the highlight of my day.
Nobody's quite as good as Ben.
No one, not at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
no one
know
can
if
be a
that- I don't
heretic
know
like
if that's
Farley.
a compliment.
Take it for what it is.
Yeah. No, I do think this place, it is cool. We sat in one of 7 coffee shops we visited yesterday, but we were up on the hill behind us and overlooking this little area here. And I was just thinking about Paul coming in and what that was launching, and that's just pretty cool. I mean, obviously you don't know really anything else other than this is where he started that journey. But just to picture Paul coming in, this landscape is what he would have seen. Obviously it probably looks a lot different, but that's just really cool to think about, launching from this point.
Mm-hmm.
So my thoughts go to, he's down over here. Would be Syria now when he takes off to come here?
Troas.
So he's I'm trying to put myself like him. And I'm sailing into this bay. And it's like, okay, Lord. Because he's only here because this is where God told him to come. He didn't want to come here. So God says go there. And as he sails in, that whole thought process of, okay, so what are you going to do here?
So I think it's interesting because, he has a very clear calling to be the apostle to the Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
And up until this point, his method of evangelism is to go into the synagogue and preach the gospel, which that's Jews. Other Gentiles are receiving the gospel because of that. But here, there's no synagogue in Philippi.
Luke makes that distinction very clear
Mm-hmm.
in chapter 16.
And that's why he goes out to where he finds Lydia and the women who are praying out by the river because there's no synagogue to go teach in. And it's like God's showing him, hey, I'm really going to use you to be the apostle to the Gentiles right now. Everything you've known, everything you're comfortable with is about to change. And so, all his fine talk, because he's educated, and he finds himself at the river with Lydia, and Lydia accepts that message of Christ.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting here on the second journey as he comes into Neapolis. It's Europe, and it really is the spread of the gospel to the rest of the world.
But there would be this sense of expectation, like, if you're going to take me there, what are you going to do when I get there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think we lose that sometimes. Like, God's guiding us, and there's He's going to do something through our effort. We don't know what that is. We just plant the seed, we water the seed, we cultivate. But He's going to bring forth a harvest. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's 100-fold.
Looking for that expectation of what God's going to do.
Because that's fun to see. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing much more thrilling than to see, oh, God's doing something here, right?
Yeah.
And you just get to be a little part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But He's doing something here, and that's awesome.
Well, even the early believers in Philippi, like it talks about how
Thanks, Dad.
it even talks about how
I got a room to myself last night because I'm the old guy. I heard you.
You needed it.
I heard y'all say that. Well, who's going to get the solo room? Because we're an odd number of people. The old guy.
No, the snoring guy.
That too.
But we also learned from that the Church of Philippi, they send support to Paul. Like, they are one of his primary support givers, and so even when he goes off to Thessalonica, they send him support several times. And so, even though we don't read about it in the book of Acts, their impact as being generous, as supporting Paul, and help expanding the gospel, to the other regions, like, they were a part of that too. The first church that he went to got to help support the rest of the journey efforts.
But it doesn't always start out good because he does get ran out of town.
True.
We spent the night
With
half
an
the
inch
night in jail.
from an inch of his life. So
So he writes the book to these people from Corinth?
yes,
Is that right? What we
Yep.
think? Which he spent 18 months in Corinth, which is going to be one of the later points in our journey. But we'll be able to be down there and see, he's thinking about these folks and writing back and saying thanks. I got to wonder, too, like Lydia, his first convert, she's probably, because we know the dealer of purple, she got money. She's probably one of those specifically that he's thinking about as he talks about thanks for your support. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where are we off to today?
Thessaloniki,
Mm-hmm.
Berea, Meteora.
Meteora to end the day. And then we have all day tomorrow in Meteora.
We're gonna. We're gonna hike tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Go visit some monks.
That's a whole other interesting thing.
Yep.
But for maybe another podcast.
The scenery will look way different on that one. So, it'll be cool.
We will not be at sea level.
No.
Yeah, we're down here at the water though, just so you could get a feel for this. And it's kind of weird around here. Let's talk about that for just a moment.
Well, it's 6 a.m.
Yeah,
Boats are running
but
in.
drive down through Effingham at 6 a.m. Is downtown Flora at 6 a.m.? Is there anybody there?
No.
No.
I mean, it's starting to stir around. Yeah.
What
Well, I
time's
came out on
Grandma's
my
Kitchen
balcony last night, and this place was like slammed with people
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
at 10:15 at night.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the case. Everything starts later here and ends much later.
Well, it doesn't get dark till 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's true.
They want to eat lunch between 2 and 3, and
Yeah.
then they want to eat supper like, what, 8 to 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so.
It's pretty late.
Hmm.
I think I can adapt to that, though.
I can adapt to eating pretty much any time.
Perfect. Speaking of eating, that's what we're gonna do next. Breakfast in 22 minutes. Anything else we need to cover? Let's get this over with.
We should say thank you to people who've endured this long and joined us.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
And we did not go to 7 coffee shops.
It was 6.
I probably had 7 coffees yesterday, but not at
I don't
7
know how you
shops.
do that.
You just build up a tolerance over
Yeah.
time.
One at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time.
Ooh.
It's
One step.
It's not,
One
it's
drink.
not normal
what's
coffee.
what's
It's
the
like,
Greek word?
wow.
Hupageo? Hupomeno.
It's got a hupomeno.
One step at a
I
time.
live that in most areas of my life.
Hupomeno.
So-
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna get a tattoo of that or something.
You shoot on this trip.
Maybe.
There was a store over here you could get a tattoo and a haircut.
A haircut.
Well, that's
Probably
something-
where Paul.
I was going to
went.
say that's probably something Paul would do.
Well.
All things to all men that I might win a few.
I'm hoping
If
to
you
get a
were
haircut
ever
on
going
this.
to get one of
Stupamena.
those Greek fish tattoos, this is the place
Oh,
to
that
do it.
is.
the place to do
I
it.
think we should
In
all
Greece?
come back with
Matching tattoos.
Okay, let's shut this down. We'll see you tomorrow on the. Actually, we'll see you in a week, but we'll be here tomorrow.
Be sure to keep checking out all of the content. We're recording a lot of stuff that we intend to roll out every day or close to as often as we can on social media. So be sure you're checking. We're going to put a lot of stuff on YouTube. If we figure out today the proper usage of the 360 cam,
Jeff.
we'll no, it wasn't my fault. We'll have some 360 view stuff. Maybe for Meteora, that probably will be a good place for that one.
That'd be cool.
Just make sure you follow along and pick up the little pieces.
We'll see you next time.